right, well, so we're so lucky to have with us today David Prochel. He's with Peak Evolution. And Jesse, you may remember we got a video contributor story about this a few weeks ago. These guys are a little bit crazy, I think. We're going to find out today if they really are. But David, thanks so much for being with us, and I can't wait to hear about what you guys are working on.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I'm excited, how you actually got to know about us.
Yeah, so we have all these spies that are in our community, and they go out and film things that are going on in the world. And one of them shared a video contributor story with us. You're seeing that here, and they saw you presenting. I think you were unveiling your machine, and I guess please let our audience know, what are we talking about here? What are you guys attempting to do?
All right. Yeah. Well, it's to put it really simple. We are developing and building an electric agricultural vehicle. So basically, it's a transport vehicle for agriculture and municipal services in mountain regions. So we're from Switzerland, like half the country is big mountains. And there are a lot of vehicles doing snow removal, doing transport works in off-road environments. And we're building an electric vehicle for that. And in theory, this is a bit of a boring subject because not many people care about agriculture in mountain regions. So we want to promote our vehicle a bit more. And we decided we want to show what it is actually capable of. It has a lot of features that makes it really off-road capable. And we decided we want to set a world record for driving it to the highest altitude any vehicle has ever reached. So beyond anything any combustion engine vehicle has ever done. And we want to drive it up to the highest volcano in the world, which is Ojos del Salado in Chile. It's 6,893 meters high. It's the only place in the world where you can do such a record. And we want to do this completely solar powered, because the mountain is in the middle of the desert. There's no power outlets, and we have to charge the vehicle with solar power on the way.
So I guess you just said to us that you have to make this vehicle because pretty much you're doing something very hard, right? You're doing agriculture in the mountains. But I guess my question is, there's a lot of cool electric vehicles coming out now. We have the Rivian R1T, the Ford F-150 Lightning, and they seem like they could do a pretty good job of, driving around off-road, maybe driving around in high climates. Why couldn't you use something like that?
Well, there's cool electric vehicles coming out, but what we are building, that's literally a completely different category. We have a payload of 6 tons on our vehicle, which is way more than any of those pickup trucks have. We have a very powerful hydraulic system on board, so we can power all kinds of equipment like cranes, snow plows, winches, pumps, anything you would need. So this vehicle is basically a multi-purpose platform. You can change whatever is on the back, on the cargo area, you can change within 10 minutes. There's hydraulic clamps and a standard fixing system. So you could either have a loading bed on it or a water tank, or for example, for forestry work, the hydraulic crane plus those forks where you can put the tree trunks in. They are vehicles similar to ours, already used widespread in Switzerland and also in the other Alp countries like Austria, France, Italy, Germany. All around there's thousands of those vehicles. And it's just there's no electric alternative on the market right now. There is smaller vehicles, like you said, like the Rivian, then even slightly bigger, but they don't have the same off-road capabilities. And then there's the big trucks, heavyweight trucks, but they are not made for off-road work. So ours is the first platform which has also the high power hydraulic outlets on board.
So what are the difficulties in working in the mountains? For most of the United States, I'm not going to say all the United States, but it's pretty flat. So talk to us a little bit about some of the challenges that you face and some of the places that, agriculture is being done where that isn't just a big field with a big thing that goes all the way around it.
No, of course. Agriculture here is done completely different than from in the US, for example, or even like northern Germany, because you wouldn't even bother like trying to grow anything on a slope because you have enough plains where you can go with huge tractors. So like you would probably think it's crazy to go like really steep up and try and cut the grass and get the hay and all that. But in Switzerland it's different. You don't really have a choice. You have to go into the steep valleys, and you have to carry a lot of weight still. So what these vehicles really need is a lot of torque, because like I said, the complete gross weight is 10 tons. So we have the empty weight is 4 tons, 6 tons payload. For example, you would take the manure from your farm, and you want to spread it on the field, as a fertilizer. So you would load it on the truck. You drive up the slope, and then you have this pressure tank that sprays it out onto the field. So basically, you need a lot of hydraulic power to keep the tank pressurized, and at the same time, you have like 5 tons of manure, and you're going up a hill with like 60-70% inclination, and you need a lot of grip, and you need to be able to start with no problem again. So basically these vehicles need torque. They don't need to go very fast, but they need to be able to handle the steep slopes. So what we have is, for example, all-wheel steering. So we have a really tight turning angle. We have a suspension system that can lift and lower. So we have 10 centimeters of travel that we can adjust. And we have locking differential front, rear, and center. And we can also do like a crab walk. So we can turn all wheels the same way. So it just means like these vehicles, they need to handle heavy loads in tight environments, kind of.
So it really sounds like a tractor on steroids, a mountain tractor.
Yeah, it's kind of, yeah. It's like, you think like, yeah, it's a tractor, random tractor, but it has a lot of gimmicks on it that makes it more suitable for steep slopes. Like the center of gravity is super low. Like they almost never tip over. They rather just start sliding, which is the biggest danger, but actually tipping over, that hardly ever happens because they're like really wide and low, and that makes them kind of the perfect for this job.
So then I guess my question is, if this is such a, I don't want to say niche application, everyone who's in kind of the electric car space and stuff like that, we're always talking about, trying to electrify things and stuff like that. And everyone's always going like, oh, we're going to get there. We're going to get to electric planes. We're going to get to, electric tractors. We should really focus on passenger cars because there's just so many of them. What do you say to that kind of argument where it's like, well, we'll get there when the technology gets there?
No, this is one of the main arguments that we are confronted with as well. I mean, we took this decision to go into this niche really strategically because, for one, like I said, there is no big player at the moment building a vehicle for this application, which even allowed a small startup like us to have any chance in this area. Of course, everyone says, yeah, we have to start with the passenger cars. But when you look at it from an economical and ecological standpoint, you want to start with a vehicle that gets as much use as possible. You want to because you make the vehicle, you get the resource consumption for the batteries and all of that at the start, and then you kind of save it while using it. So compared to a passenger car that is maybe standing around 22 hours a day, this commercial vehicle that gets used 6-7 hours a day actually saves more fuel in the long term than a passenger car. And also it's much more economical because that higher price in the higher purchase price is paid off much quicker by the lower running cost of the vehicle. And then compared to, for example, the semi-trucks that have to go long distances. These vehicles operate in a relatively small area. They don't go cross country. They are close to the charging stations, so that they don't need huge batteries. And they're only running 40 kilometers an hour. I mean, that's the law in Europe. Most of Europe, agricultural vehicles, they go 40 kilometers an hour. And so wind resistance isn't really an issue. And they go, because they're in the mountains, they go uphill, downhill all day. They basically do no distance in the flat. So the whole energy recuperation makes so much more sense than like on the motorway, because the perfect scenario, for example, is you drive into the forest, up the hill, you load the truck with wood, tree trunks, you drive up empty, you drive down full with 10 tons, and you can basically get all the energy back that you used while going uphill. That's like the perfect scenario. Obviously, like you have everything, it doesn't always work, but thinking about it, it's the perfect point to start for building an economical and ecological electric vehicle. So that was the starting decision for us.
That's really cool. I think a lot of people don't get that, what you just talked about, that with regen, you can get energy back. And in your case, if it's heavier than when you started, you get more energy back. It's like a perpetual motion machine. It's awesome.
Yeah.
But I do want to ask about charging, because I think a lot of people who are new to electric vehicles, that's their biggest concern, right? How would I charge this thing? I know where to find gasoline, but I don't know where to find electricity. So talk to that farmer out there who might be watching, who's thinking about this and is like, yeah, but these guys haven't thought about how to charge it. How is that farmer going to charge this thing?
We love to talk to the farmers about that topic, because at the moment, actually, farmers, they in Switzerland already, they have covered many of their farms, the buildings, like the barns where the cows are, with solar panels. Like, they are some of the early adopters actually in Switzerland of solar power, because there were quite strong incentives for that about 10 years ago already. So some of those farmers, they have huge solar power plants on their roofs. And the way the laws are at the moment, for everything you put back into the grid, you actually don't get a big amount of money. You you use it yourself as much as you need, and for whatever you put back into the grid, you you don't make a lot of money on it. At the same time, you spend the money on fuel, So we want to tell them that, like, they produce so much more than they need. It would make sense for them to actually have a vehicle that they can charge. And for example, at the start, they would have only the vehicle. They would use it probably mostly during the day, so they can't make the most of their solar power. But think into the future, they will have second life batteries that are stored in their farms. They can store the energy during the day, charge the vehicle, and be completely self-sufficient with energy in the future. For us, this is maybe 10, 15 years in the future, where these farms should be energy self-sufficient. And they already made the first step by installing these solar panels. So we can really tell them, you are prepared. This is like the way to go for you.
Now, you mentioned that you guys are a startup. I'm really impressed, because I've taken a look at your truck with Jesse, and it looks just insane, the amount of technology that you put in it. And this is the kind of thing I would expect from a company, like a big company like Rivian or something, that had like top engineers from Tesla and stuff. How have you guys been able to, with a small team, figure all this out? Like, what's your background?
Well, starting with the background, actually, we are not really... we don't have a long history in electric vehicles. We only have one engineer in the team. We're three guys. We're three long-term friends. We know each other since like small childhood. And we have one actual engineer on the team, a mechanical engineer, which is David, the other David. Then his brother is actually originally a carpenter, but he did kind of kind of university where he was focusing on like accounting and stuff. So that's more his field now in our business. And I'm actually originally from construction. I was a project manager in a construction company. So my job now is more like the project management area. But all of us, we were originally already interested in technology. Even when we were little kids, we started out building our own little pocket bikes. Then we moved on to the buggies. Kind of, we built a buggy powered by a motorbike engine. We had great fun. Like, we are originally all interested in combustion engines as well. But we knew if we want to do anything in this business, like vehicles, technology, the combustion engines aren't the future. We have to go electric. And kind of out of our interest, we got more and more into that. We spent by now 4 years really intensively studying the whole industry, also studying the technology. And by that, we were able to kind of put this project together. But in the end, we relied on a network of like also our sponsors, because we had to get sponsors for this project. We are working with a Swiss company that makes solar chargers, Swiss company that makes solar panels, a Swiss company that builds the batteries, then with Bosch from Germany who makes the motors. So we have like about 10 engineers from different companies that we regularly consult. We have meetings. So we are the core team, but we couldn't do all of it ourselves. And then to say, like, we spent nearly 4 years now working almost full time. Well, we were working more than full time on this project while kind of making a living on the side as well, because the project hasn't paid off so far, of course. And yeah, that's the way how it was even possible to get this far.
Now you're going to be taking this vehicle up and hopefully breaking a record with it. What, and on the other side of the world, we should point out, what were some of the design considerations when you were planning out like solar panels and stuff like that? And are those, same kind of solar panel systems going to be implemented in the agricultural vehicle?
Yeah, okay. Like, we had to consider so many things to do this record that if I was back again now 3 years ago and I knew what I knew now, like, just don't do it. Don't do it. It's like, it's gonna, because we didn't have an easy time. Like, you would think, okay, we have a big advantage over combustion engines because they actually suffer from the low oxygen. They lose about 70% of their power at this altitude, which is one of the reasons why no combustion engine vehicle has ever reached that level. Like, I mean, among other reasons, of course. But we thought we don't have an issue with that, but we thought wrong, because most electric devices, also like inverters, motors, they're originally designed for an altitude of around 4,000 meters. That's like the engineering standard, kind of. They have these whatever electric conductors inside. They have a certain distance between them, like an air gap that is calculated to the air resistance at 4,000 meters. And it happens that the resistance of the air decreases with altitude. So at our original voltage of 400 volts, we could have had shortcuts between what do you call it, sparks between those conductors in all of our devices, potentially, like inverters, motors, and so on. And we had to talk to the engineers at Bosch, and kind of they said, okay, if we go down to 300 volts, we can guarantee, or not guarantee, but we're not that scared that something will happen. So already we had to change our battery configuration. That was the first thing, kind of. And then obviously you have the extreme temperatures, like it's about minus 20 degrees, like from 6,000 meters upwards, it's really cold. We've been there to scout the whole mountain 3 years ago, and it was definitely the coldest I've ever been, and super strong winds. So also we have to have a battery heating system. And then probably the most complicated is to build a solar charging system that is efficient. It can charge like it is made for off-grid use. So it has to be able to charge a high voltage battery off the grid. At the same time, it has to be highly redundant. Like even if one of the components break for any reason, it has to still continue working. And then the whole thing can't cost anything because we have zero money. So we have to kind of use existing components. So these are kind of this the conflict of interest between of all these conditions that we had to fulfill. And yeah, so we kind of started out with research, doing a lot of research, what devices are available. And it ended up being like the solar panels, they're off the shelf. They're probably the most powerful you can get right now, like in efficiency wise, but they're off the shelf. And the reason is one, cost, and second, just the reliability. You know, they're strong. Like at first we thought, oh, it needs to be light, it needs to be thin, but like all those thin panels, like flexible panels, they easily break. And when we have to lay them out, because we have to lay them out on the ground in a big array, and there is super strong winds, they're just gonna fly away. So we ended up with the most obvious solution: just get off-the-shelf panels, and it has the benefit that we can also show, hey, you can get these panels, put them on the roof, they're on the market, you can get them. And then also the other components, to start maybe a bit at the beginning, we have a DC coupled system. So we have no AC power anywhere in between the solar panels and the high voltage battery, which usually happens if you have solar panels at home and you want to charge your electric car. This electricity would be transformed by the solar inverter into three-phase AC power, and then by the onboard charger or by your charger at home, converted back to DC power for your vehicle. And you would lose about 5 to 10% of your energy on those both two steps. And we didn't want to do that. We wanted to get the best efficiency out of it. So basically, our DC solar power is converted, just like the voltage is converted straight to the DC voltage of the battery. So we don't have the losses in between. And we got standard components, and the secret behind basically is the software that manages those devices together. And by now it's running. Like we can charge the vehicle with solar power, but it was kind of a long process to get to this point. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, so many different design considerations that I would have just pictured, oh, well, of course the electronics would work at any height. I could take it up to the International Space Station, would work. But it's so interesting that we rely on air as an insulator in our electronics here on Earth. And I mean, you're still on Earth at the top of this mountain, but
no, because I was thinking of our friends over at Clean to Antarctica who took their electric vehicle on Antarctica, and I just thought, okay, cold, it can handle cold, but I wasn't thinking of altitude and how that changes everything. So did you guys actually, I know you said that if you knew now what you knew then what you knew now, you may not have done this, but did it actually help your vehicle become better?
I'm thinking how it helped the vehicle become better. I think because from the start, we had to put so much emphasis on reliability, it became better because we never had the everyday use in mind, but we had minus 20 degrees, 300 kilometers away from any grid or any civilization, like running 24 hours a day for a month. we always had this in mind. We never thought like, okay, yeah, we take it on a normal average summer day to somewhere. So I guess it made our vehicle better in this way because, yeah, every cable fixation, we thought about it 3 times, how do you attach it? Because it's going to be shaking for a month. It's going to be completely dirty. We can't look at it. Is it going to still work, Because literally, if something breaks at 6,000 meters somewhere, there's no one that will bring this vehicle back down. We could hire 50 people who go up there, take the vehicle apart, and then carry every single piece down. But that's literally the only way. So in that respect, I would say maybe it has become better. But I couldn't say like one specific thing that we had to make for that reason. Yeah.
So I think that people by now are sort of used to solar panels, but they're not used to touching them and playing with them and plugging them into stuff. They're used to paying somebody to come put them on their house, and then
It magically works.
Magically, everything works. And so it's really tough when someone's like, "Hey, I used solar panels to do this thing." People go like, "I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that means." What does it mean to have a solar panel system on this vehicle that's going to be going up a mountain? Are you going to need it? Are you going to need to park there for 3 weeks to charge up the whole battery? Does it take 2 minutes? Like, kind of walk me through how the solar panels work on your vehicle.
So like I said, the vehicle has to be solar powered because we are 300 kilometers away from any grid. There's no way to charge it, so we have to go solar. And of course, we have solar panels on the roof of our truck, on the cabin, but that gives us nowhere enough power to keep going. So what we have to do is stop and actually build up a solar power plant on the spot, and then park there for a day or even 2 to charge the vehicle. That also sounds maybe a bit crazy, but we have this. It's about 30 square meters. We have the normal solar power panels, the solar panels stored in the vehicle that we can pull out, lay them out on the ground, plug them in, and then basically wait. So maybe not everyone has built a solar power plant before, but it's super satisfying because they are made to be set up really quick and easy, and you can't do much wrong about it. It's kind of like playing Lego, because we had so many troubles about the whole vehicle. Everything is just difficult and a huge disaster. But then when it comes to solar panels, you just plug them in and it's kind of chill. So we have 30 square meters of solar panels we put out to the ground. That gives us about 7 kilowatts of power to charge the vehicle during the best hours of the day. So early morning and evening doesn't give us much. We have 90 kilowatt hours of capacity on the vehicle. So you can do your own math. If you get like 5-6 hours of good solar power per day, you might get like 40 kilowatt hours per day. So we're looking at 2 days of charging from 0 to 100%. Which sounds kind of long and a slow process, but you have to consider that we are going from kind of sea level to almost 7,000 meters, and we need to acclimatize to this altitude, which actually takes about 5 weeks just to be able to walk around, survive, and actually do some cognitive work up there. You need to get used to this altitude for a long time in a slow process.
Wait, so not anyway, the vehicle, right?
Right, the humans.
The human body has to acclimate. Wow.
Yeah, for sure. The vehicle has its own issues with the altitude, but then for the humans, it's a whole other story. Like, we have been there 3 years ago. We have climbed the mountain. We actually brought our mountain bikes to make it a little bit more difficult, but you spend about 5 weeks getting used to the altitude, going up slowly. Like every 2 or 3 days you move up a bit, and even after 5 weeks, the altitude beyond 6,500 meters, there's no way you get used to it. It's like, imagine you're completely drunk, and like you can barely see straight, and you're just walking like in slow steps. You're walking to the summit. Like if you compare that at 7,000 meters or 6,800 meters, it's where people usually start wearing oxygen when they climb Mount Everest. So it's just at the level where it's not really possible anymore without the oxygen. But even before, it literally feels like you're completely drunk. You can barely put a straight sentence together. And if you sit down somewhere to make a break, you start daydreaming, and kind of like all of a sudden it doesn't seem that important anymore to even continue. You could just chill on a rock somewhere. So, and we have to operate this machine like weighing 5 tons in super steep terrain. We have to operate the winch, which is dangerous, with the steel wire and the tension and all of that. We have to operate the solar power system. So it has to we had to make the solar power system also foolproof, because you're still operating with high voltage and you have all these plugs everywhere and you're kind of not thinking straight.
Dude, you already sold me on this Netflix special. Like if I was at Netflix right now, I'd be like, yes, sign me up. This is an adventure. I get to see people who are going to like fall down on the top of a mountain.
It sounds like, it almost sounds like you could take your finished machine and just take it to Mars.
Yeah.
And just put a pressurized cabin and it would function.
I think, we had people before saying that, because the ridiculous thing of physics is actually, in a vacuum, it wouldn't have a problem, because the vacuum, it's 100% isolating. So there it's kind of this, I'm rambling on about it now, but the resistance of air is decreasing, and once it reaches the vacuum, it's like it goes up and it's actually fully insulating. So the vehicle could run on Mars, literally. It wouldn't have any problems. All you need is a pressurized cabin and some radiation protection, and you could drive it around Mars, literally.
Elon, do you hear that?
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's great. Wow. And that means it would work on the moon too.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, well, the moon you have. Yeah. Well, yeah. It's all this rambling on, but
the
moon.
stuff.
The moon is a harsher. The moon is a harsher environment than Mars, but for sure, yeah. Like just the drive system, it wouldn't struggle on the moon as well. Yeah.
Because we're going to need a vehicle to get our luggage to the moon hotel,
Yeah, for sure.
So a lot of people watching right now are investors, and they hear that you're a startup, and I think they might be thinking like, ooh, this is interesting. It's interesting to me because while there's tons of electric sedan companies, you have found a very important use case that most of us, I never thought of before. But it's important, right? There's whole countries, as you pointed out, that need this vehicle. And so if I'm interested in investing in your startup, is that something that's possible at this point? Are you thinking of doing a crowdfunding round or something like that where I could get involved?
So in principle, we are open for investors like in the future. Right now, like before we actually want to talk to an investor and we set up kind of the business plan and everything. But before we want to go to investors and talk about how this could work, we want to figure out and really, how do I say, make airtight the whole strategy. How is the vehicle going to be built? How is it going to be sold? How it is going to be serviced? And what are actually the use cases? We want to have this all airtight because, for example, we don't build this vehicle from scratch. We don't design the axles and all of that. That has been existing technology. That is proven stuff. And it's made by a Swiss company that builds these kind of vehicles, but with diesel power. And we are currently working out the deal, how the manufacturing of these vehicles can happen in cooperation with them. Because for us, you take a company like Tesla, they start building an electric vehicle from scratch. And there's the famous quote of Elon Musk when they went through production hell with their like ramping up the production. If you start from zero, you will run into so many problems. So we want to have proven technology and then like fit it out with our new designed electric drivetrain that we built for this vehicle. And we want to like really have the whole plan ready, how we're going to build these vehicles, how they're going to be serviced and all of that. I think once we figure this out, we are ready. And also what we're going to do next is actual field testing. We're putting this vehicle into use in municipal services, maybe in agriculture. And through this whole adventure, altitude record adventure in Chile, we actually got in touch with mining companies there. They are putting great effort into electrifying their underground fleets, like for underground mining, because they have a lot of cost for air conditioning and ventilation of those underground mines. And any combustion engine vehicle that is running down there is creating heat and pollution that needs to be removed. So they have a big incentive to electrify those fleets underground. And we also having some interest from there. So we want to actually do test runs there, get feedback. And once this is all together, then we're like, look, this is what we got. Now, are you interested in this? But yeah, we're not really into kind of making the nice renderings promising like this range production next year and all of that. I think there's enough companies who do that, and it kind of hurts the whole industry in a way, it also kind of destroys the trust of like a new customer who is new into electric mobility. They hear all these promises and in the end some don't work out. So that is our goal. But yeah, to answer your question in short, yes, we will be interested in investors as well. Yeah.
So, David, I just want to ask. I know that you just said you don't want to overpromise, and I think that's great. But I do want to ask because I think a lot of people watching are like, "Well, how much is this thing going to cost? Can you give us some idea of what it might cost?"
Yeah, like I said, we don't want to overpromise anything. So right now, like basically the brutal truth is this vehicle will cost about 2.5 times the price of a comparable combustion engine vehicle. And the prices vary greatly on the equipment that is on the vehicle because it's a small market. There are about 300 vehicles built right now per year in this category. And almost none of them are the same because one is going to be used in forestry, one is going to be used in agriculture, and so on. And I would say they go for about 200,000 right now in the combustion engine segment. So we are like maybe 2.5 times is exaggerated, but we are looking probably around 350 to 400,000 francs, which is at the moment the same as dollars, kind of that. So they're expensive. Like even I've been working on them. I know the industry. They're super expensive, but there is no alternative at the moment for them. But we are quite confident that like also this issue will be solved in the future. Like this, the price gap will be reduced. And we can also, right now, we can really confidently say that over their lifetime, the total cost of ownership of the electric vehicle is lower than the diesel-powered version because they put a lot of strain on those diesel engines. They have so much service costs, on clutches and all of that stuff. And also they have issues with the exhaust treatment because a lot of times they don't run for long distances. So the whole diesel particle filters and all of that stuff that tends to clog up because they run for 20 minutes, then you stop, then they run for 20 minutes. So they hardly ever reach their full operational temperature. And And then there's, of course, just the fuel cost and all of that. So we can really confidently say that the TOC of the electric vehicle is lower than the diesel-powered vehicle.
Yeah, I'm so excited about your adventure coming up. I want to know, I mean, I wish I could ride along, but is there any other way for me to experience this adventure that you guys are going to be doing in the vehicle?
Yeah, for us, it's obviously also a huge deal. And we wanted to capture it. And we luckily got in touch with a Swiss documentary filmmaker. He's actually quite renowned. He made this Long Way Up and Long Way Around documentaries for Apple TV with Ewan McGregor, where they rode the motorbikes around the world once, and then electric motorbikes from the bottom of South America to Los Angeles. And so now he's all up on this electric vehicle kind of adventure. Let's say he loves these electric vehicle adventures. So he was super motivated to start filming with us already. And we are putting all the effort in to make a serious documentary about the adventure. We started filming now out of our own pockets for now. But we're looking at financing this documentary somehow. And we created like NFTs that you can buy to basically to finance the film and also the adventure. And by buying the NFTs, you get access to special content, to actually also us, to the crew. Like there is Zoom calls with the crew. You get exclusive information, for example, technical information about the vehicle, like live during the expedition, position, like charging state, about solar plant, temperature, all of that kind of stuff. So whoever is into the tech stuff is like, this whole NFT thing is really cool. I mean, it's tough selling NFTs right now. This whole hype also is already gone. But in the end, this is not something you're going to make money on it. It's not kind of this, you're going to be rich by buying our NFTs. But the goal is like having an exclusive access to everything that is going on about this adventure. And that's kind of the way how we want to do it, because it's actually hard to sell this kind of adventure to whoever, like Netflix or whatever, because who are we? Like, it's 3 Swiss dudes. Like no one knows us. We might just huff it all up and it burns on the mountain, and it's big tragedy, and then you blow a lot of money on it. Probably when it's all done and there's a nice film and they're like, oh, actually, maybe then they will come and get it. But for now, we're working on out of our own pockets. But for sure, there will be a really cool documentary about this adventure.
So where can people go if they want to support you and get these NFTs? And again, like, you're really good point. This isn't to get rich. This is to help you guys.
Yeah, for sure. Basically, you can go to our website. It's peakevolution.ch. And there's like a button straight on the starting page. You can find it. You can also get all the information about it. And of course, like, we are really happy for everyone who reaches out to us. We have our contact email address on the website. I mean, we're super happy to answer all the questions. I mean, also when you reached out to us, we are happy to talk to you, because in the end, what we want to do with this whole project is spread the information, spread the excitement about renewable technology to everyone in the world. Everyone who has some interest in technology. There's nothing I like to do more than spend an hour with someone and telling him about this stuff. So that's your way to reach out to us. Just go to the website, look at the NFTs, reach out to us, check out our YouTube channel.
Awesome. Well, when you get back, I can't wait to maybe drive up some Swiss Alps with you.
Yeah, I mean, next year we're going to be in Europe, so let's definitely make a chance to stop by and see you guys. I would love to check out your machine.
That would be cool. Yeah. Because now, we're going to start next year. By next autumn, we're going to leave for this trip. And now we're going to do as many adventures as possible in Switzerland. We're trying to set something up in winter, like do some winter expedition, a small one in the Swiss mountains. And then of course, in the summer, we will have lots of chances for test rides, whoever comes around and wants to see it.
That's great. David, this has been so much fun talking to you. I can't wait to check back in with you probably next year as you guys begin your adventure. If anyone watching is interested, head on over to their website. There's so much cool information about their adventure, and I urge you to support them. Put a little money towards your mouth here and let them know that you have a little love for their project, because this is how we get projects like this off the ground.
No, that I would be super happy, and like we also give you the chance to actually be part of it, like to actually become part of this adventure, to make it possible, to see your contribution. So we would be really grateful for anyone who helps us, and also we want to give something back. So reach out to us.
Awesome. David, I had a real pleasure talking to you today. I wish you the best of luck, and hopefully we'll be seeing you next year.
Yeah, it was great to talk to you too, and it would be nice to see you again.